Hey, Bomb, get this. Game Freak just dropped the latest Pokemon generation, and it's even buggier than the last one. That means Sword and Shield are no longer the newest Pokemon games! You mean all the whiny child apologists are 5 years older and have long moved past that rank pustulant piss balloon? Meaning we can finally fairly review it after all this time! Speak for yourself, I'm not touching that filth. I didn't even play it. But I did for the lulz, which you can watch in a full livestream series just like everybody else, shameless plug. Even still, I really don't want to do this. Well, it's episode 99 and you've been putting this off since episode 2? Fine. Hope you're ready for a bloodbath. Brace yourselves, we're finally doing this. Game Freak, prepare your anus. All right, Mr. Plated for the lulz, is Sword and Shield really as bad as everyone says it is? No. Really? It's worse. Oh. It was the most comically unbalanced, unfinished, directionless disaster of a video game I have ever played in my life. Aren't you supposed to be the positive gamer? Yeah. It was hilarious! I can do this. You watched it all, right? Yeah. So best foot forward, this is technically an RPG journey, catching and raising new Pokemon to defeat 8 gyms and the Elite Four to become champion of the region. Best foot forward. That's the bare minimum! Yeah, I don't have a single good thing to say about the gameplay. Okay, so let's try to ignore the horrendous pre-release debacle where Game Freak repeatedly straight-faced lied to everybody about why over half of the national decks of Pokemon were cut from the game, among many other things, due to them supposedly rebuilding everything from the ground up for the Nintendo Switch. Even though they were immediately exposed and called out on their lies and ignored the tremendous fan outcry to delay the game and properly finish it, resulting in widespread boycotts and public humiliation. Because let's be honest, delaying this game wouldn't have changed a damn thing. It's barely even a game when you think about it. It plays more like a series of long unskippable cutscenes between narrow hallways you have to walk through just to activate the next cutscene. The hand-holding in this game was painful. Not only does this game forcefully demand where you go and what you do every single step of the way, as if you've never played a Pokemon game before in your life, it treats you like you've never played a video game in your life. You think we're exaggerating. But no, this game thinks you are so dumb it has to remind you every 10 steps that you're walking to the left, and then tell you again in 10 steps, and then tell you again in 5 that you're supposed to go in the red door and talk to the only person in the room and suck their 2 Pokeballs and wipe your butt with your left hand, and it's bad. Video games are founded on player choice and input. Taking that away from the player and treating them like a drooling infant can't even be considered to be on the same planet as fun. No joke, this was the vast majority of the game. And thankfully, it's much shorter than usual. Sure, I'd rather it be longer, but I'd also rather it be fun, and we can't always get what we want. Between all the narrow corridors and forced cutscenes, you'll occasionally get the chance to catch wild Pokemon and battle trainers. And this should be the fun part. It really should. But somehow even this has lost all of its color. The problem is this game is grossly unbalanced, quickly overpowering your Pokemon with mountains of forcefully shared XP, on top of the new broken XP candies. This causes virtually every single encounter to be a breeze, and not a single battle will ever put up a challenge. You can't even catch wild Pokemon that the game determines to be too high of a level for you, as if that solves anything. Yep, that just made uncatchable shinies a thing again. Thanks, Game Freak. The wild area was still a step in the right direction for the franchise, but boy is it a baby step, and boy does it have a lot of problems. So at first glance, the wild area appears to be a large open world environment for Pokemon to roam and be encountered in the overworld. However, it's a pathetically small single environment with a seemingly endless list of graphical bugs, pop-in, unbelievably bad weather effects that instantly swap from one extreme to another if you take a single step over arbitrary invisible lines, and the new game's horrible gimmick, Dynamax battles. These are trash. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. You basically fight a random, oversized Pokemon with a team of 3 AI trainers, because the wireless sucks so hard. I never once got to interact with another human being pitiful enough to be caught playing this game at the same time as me. The big Pokemon just has a big health bar, and occasionally some annoying shields you gotta break by using super effective moves you were already using. And that's it. The whole Dynamax gimmick is just slow Pokemon battles? Did they seriously look at Niantic's Pokemon Go and think that what people liked about that game was that the boss Pokemon were big? That's about as stupid as thinking people fly in airplanes because they like peanuts. No, Game Freak, we use airplanes in spite of the peanuts. It's funny because Pokemon Go's gameplay is somehow more engaging than Sword and Shield. So you fight some Chungus in a hole and get smothered in rewards like the new XP candies that can easily level up your newly hatched shiny to level 100 without it ever battling once. It's like these new gameplay implementations are there just to convince you not to play the game. There was a point where I stepped into the next hallway, or route as we used to call them, and caught some new octopus thing. I didn't once battle with it or anything, but instead immediately used it to single-handedly annihilate the upcoming gym trainers and leader without taking a single hit. That's inexcusably unbalanced. God, now I see why kids these days think that Brock and Whitney were hard gyms. They couldn't squish an ant unless they were safely driving a steamroller. The entirety of this game is fighting to get away from the game's hand-holding so you can play it, even though you're effectively handcuffed to Hop, the most obnoxiously in-your-face British stereotype I've ever had the displeasure of being handcuffed to for 15 hours. And then when you finally do get away for a minute, you realize the RPG itself is incredibly barren, with virtually no buildings or people to interact with, outside of the obligatory ones whose sole existence is to hand you some TM or held item without question. Unless you missed one of these, there's absolutely no reason to return to any of the game's towns for any reason. I remember going into the fire gym with most of my team being weak to fire just to give the game a fighting chance, but I won anyway. Seriously, the only time this game even was almost fun was when I got to the wild area, but once I realized how artificial and plastic everything was, I moved on. But much to my dismay, that was the only part of the game where you'd ever have a wild area. It's one room! I genuinely don't understand how people even have the stomach to defend this game. It's not bad because of everything Game Freak cut and lied about in development. It's bad because it's one of the most abominable disgraces ever published. Held together with feces and popsicle sticks. Oh, speaking of which, did you notice the entire world freezes if you touch a ladder? Oh, and those obnoxious challenges take the place of nearly every gym again. But they're somehow even worse than last time. There, we talked about it. Can this be over now? This is only the first segment. No! Okay, so you played Sun and Moon on 3DS. Well, these games basically ported all of the models and animations from those games, and that's it. I say basically, but that's exactly what happened, even though this lying scumbag Masuda tried to play us all for fools, claiming that they were all recreated from scratch. How stupid does he think we are? That's once again just the tip of the iceberg. This game is a smorgasbord of hilariously awful graphical memes like the famous N64 tree, and constant fading to black every single time something needs to be animated on screen to avoid from actually showing it. Now, a lot of people blame this on lazy developers, and I gotta say, it's got nothing to do with their competency, but instead it has everything to do with their absurd release schedule. You think Nintendo doesn't have the money to properly make a quality Pokemon game? Now, the problem is they don't have the patience and want a new one released every year because a single delay could cost them millions in sales from the card game, anime, and merchandise that's all scheduled to release at the same time before the Christmas rush every single year. So yeah, Pokemon and people pop in and out of existence continually, animations are unbelievably stiff and unfinished, environments use temporary textures and models that seemingly never got replaced, your character emotes about as much as a vacuum cleaner, and Pokemon just transform around the screen to move, and use magical floating teeth or claws to just appear out of thin air to attack for virtually every move. How come when you're in a trainer battle, you suddenly get teleported somewhere else just so they didn't have to remodel the background? And sometimes you don't even get a background. You just get teleported into this white void box with some PNG fog floating around. Oh, by the way, if you find a shiny Pokemon, it won't be shiny in the overworld beforehand. Oh, and by the way, only some Pokemon can even be seen in the overworld at all, so have fun resuming running in the grass like a psychotic lawnmower looking for the new trashy Pokemon. Oh yeah, these Pokemon designs are indescribably hideous. Like all of them. But you already knew that by watching our Pokemon Opinions video on Sword and Shield, didn't you, shameless plug? Some of you said that by playing the game myself, I changed my mind on the Pokemon designs. And you're right. I used to hate them all, and now I hate them! You know, it's always the story that I hope for most when playing a bad game. I already know the gameplay is gonna suck, so I tell myself I'm just playing it to experience the story, or maybe the story will hold up the whole circus tent. But holy crap, this game. This game has the worst plot, characters, writing, and delivery conceivable by man. You know you're in for a train wreck when the game starts and immediately you're met with a plastic announcer silently flapping his gums at the screen while text just silently appears under his head. So this game's beaver child, Hop, lives next door and harasses you for the entirety of the game as you both journey across the straight hallway of a region to collect 8 badges and dethrone this pompous jack-off of a brother and regional champion, Leon. You'd think with how frequently they stop you dead in your tracks to force-feed you mountains of sloppy dialogue that there'd at least be a point at the end of it all. But nah, you just take a few steps and get castrated with pointlessly crappy word balloons for the entire game. So really there's just a long list of schmucks you gotta tolerate listening to until credits roll. Like this laughably weak pipsqueak literally named Bidet. You better hop on a bidet after playing this disgraceful diarrhea. Oh, and there's this random goth chick named Marnie the Dinosaur or something, and she's got this gang of stalkers that follow her everywhere called Team Yell. Not sure why she doesn't just call the cops and report them. I mean, it'd be easy to track them all down considering every single one of them looks exactly the same. You know you're playing a quality video game when there's 2 or more side-by-side identical character models with the same looping animations, but the game tries to pass them off as different people. Oh man, and you gotta get a load of this buffoon. Just like actual British politicians, Chairman Rose here casually decides to become evil and destroy the planet for absolutely no other reason than you're getting too close to the end of the game and nothing has happened yet. Dude just straight up interrupts you at the champion battle to say, and I quote, "I think it's time I brought about the darkest day." Silently, of course. Text just kind of shows up on screen when he suddenly appears like a toenail on a cheeseburger. Which, it doesn't really happen often, but when it does, it probably really sucks. So Derp Salad here is concerned that in 1,000 years, Galler might run out of power. He's got absolutely no evidence to support this, of course, but thinks it's best to play it safe and bring about the freaking apocalypse, you know, just in case. I'm not even gonna try and justify all that, even though it perfectly reflects real-life politicians. You ever realize that Rose and Leon's beards are the opposites of one another? It's like they each intentionally shaved exactly where the other one would have facial hair. No, why would you think that? So like if they kissed, they would fit together like 2 fuzzy puzzle pieces. Oh my god, this story's so bad, it's making me fantasize about 2 cartoon men making out! Beard bros are best bros. I can't be the first person to think about this. Alright, I'm gonna be clear with you all. I tried my best to find the least crappy music to play for this episode, but that just cut all of the new stuff and only left the Game Boy remixes. So... honestly, it's not all bad, it's just kind of super samey at best, and kind of ear-splitting at its worst. I don't know, I kind of think it's at its worst with the intentional lack of voice acting, with all the characters just kind of moving their puppet mouths as if something was supposed to be coming out of them. Okay, enough of the British slang. Quit throwing a wobbly, I'm just taking the piss. Okay, I swear to God, I'm not even making a script for this part here. This seriously is one of the worst games ever made. Okay, I know you're all probably morbidly curious, and so was I, but I'm gonna be honest. I will never get this time back. Just don't. So undescribably awful. Everything that the game is trying to do, it just freaking can't. It's terrible. And if you even got this far to finish the game and you think, oh, maybe if I buy the DLC it'll get better. No, it does things to you. No, it doesn't. It's more of the same crap. Just admit that you made a mistake, sell the game, and move on with your life. The positive gamer in me was actually shocked at how laughably bad Pokemon Sword and Shield really were, giving them a gutted 3 out of 10. Sure, it was funny to laugh at how atrocious and horrendous this trash heap was, but that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, this was one of the worst video games I have ever played. The critical gamer in me struggles to express my utter disdain with Pokemon Sword and Shield, giving it a morbid 1 out of 10. This hopeless shell of a game is nothing but a string of constant silent breadcrumb cutscenes scattered down a long empty hallway, and the RPG itself is without a doubt the worst I have ever played in the genre. And believe me, my expectations were already at rock bottom. Leave it to Game Freak to keep redefining how low the bar can really go. But what do you think? Tell us how your positive and critical sides rate this thing in the comments below. But if you seriously just watch this just to complain in the comments, do us both a favor and try any other RPG on the Switch just to get some perspective. Because if you are blindly defending this absolute cock-up, then you're just playing with yourself. Seriously, Xenoblade 3 is amazing. You gotta try it. Yes, alright, yeah, Zach, I finally did it. Now take your stupid game back already. It's here somewhere. You can find it. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and use the links in the description to nominate your own episode. And thank you to all of our Patreon members, Aspen, Atomic Thomas, Arrow, and Sid. No, not you, Zach. You made me play that piece of... So you...